Hi everybody, back for part 3. Okay, so we've talked about what you were taught about anger, what you grew up believing, and how we perhaps would have learnt to repress it. We talked about the damage that it can do when you do repress it. And so I just thought I'd pick up where we left off. And so I've written a few things about what else gets repressed. And I've put, we pay a heavy price, and that's very true, we do. So excitement, joy, energy, love, motivation, eagerness, passion, warmth, zeal, exhilaration, zest for life, enjoyment, and power. And at the end of the last video, I talked about how anger can be a motivating energy. It gives us motivation. And I think it gives us the power to do things that we sometimes feel we struggle to do, like we feel powerless. When we would deny that anger, it can actually leave us feeling quite powerless. And this is the power of anger. And so I think that's really important, because I want to empower people, make better decisions for themselves, do what they want to do, live life on their terms, let go of needing the approval from the outside reality, manage their own emotions, control their own mind, take care of the body. And I'm not saying we're all going to do it perfectly, but I think it does help us go a long way to do that a lot better. So hopefully you're still with me and you're still kind of liking what we're doing here. Okay, so I wrote a list of all the things that the ability to feel my rage and why it was my superpower. And I know I said that. So I'm just going to read it out to you, because I just think I can't remember it all. So it keeps me safe. It makes me feel strong when I feel weak. It's a powerful energy. It helps connect me to a deeper part of myself. It connects me to my intuitive self. It helps me stay grounded. It helps me connect to my aliveness. It doesn't run the show, not now anyway. It did at one time. So when it runs the show, yeah, it's kind of not going to work for you. It's probably going to work against you. But not now. It hasn't done for a very long time. She helps me know when someone isn't safe. I think being connected to your anger is like a warning sign, especially if you've had a lot of negativity, or you haven't had your needs met growing up. You'll often think that is normal. And so when you meet someone that kind of takes more than they give, you just think that's normal. And actually a sign that they're doing that is sometimes this sort of anger. It might be a low grade anger, not like a full on 10 out of 10 anger, but it might be 1 or 2. It's like, why do I feel annoyed or frustrated or a little bit angry towards this person? Now that might be why. Okay, so that's a good thing. See, I think it's kind of a symptom, a sign inside your body, and sometimes we don't heed that sign because we've been taught to repress, deny, and avoid. And she loves me and wants nothing but the best for me, and I think that's not a lot of people might agree with that. She helps me detect when things aren't right, and the capacity I can feel my rage is the capacity I can feel my peace and joy. And you can't have one without the other. So, hopefully, I have helped you understand that connecting to that angry part of you is a good thing, is not a bad thing, is a very good thing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is what happens to you when you see someone expressing anger. Because I think that's very telling, isn't it? So if you see someone getting angry, it'll often tell you a lot, because the people around you are just mirrors reflecting something back at you. So if you see someone being angry and you're terrified, that probably helps you understand that you're probably terrified of your own anger. And it's normal to be afraid of someone that's angry. I get afraid of people that are angry. Because usually when people are getting angry, they're out of control. And out of control people are scary. When someone with road rage, let's face it, people have killed each other because they feel this rage, and they get out their car and then they go kill someone. I mean, anger out of control. I'm not talking about out of control. I'm talking about learning to embrace and own, take responsibility, acknowledge, not go and hurt somebody. That's not what this is about. You see, you have to allow yourself to be angry so you can allow yourself to stop being angry. The reason I'm talking about that initially is to connect with your anger, but not so you stay angry. Not so you repress it and deny it, so you process it. We're getting to that point. That'll be in maybe another few videos. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of leaning into it at the moment. So this is about what happens to you. Do you, especially if you if you had angry parents, that's gonna trigger you. That's gonna impact on you. That's gonna, what's your reaction when you see someone getting angry? Now, I think mine was to appease. There's fight, flight, freeze, but then there's appease. That fawn, sometimes called that, where like you try and calm them down, but actually you're not acknowledging their anger. You're just trying to sort of calm them down, which is sometimes is a survival instinct. So if your parents were angry, you might do something. So I heard a story once about a young lad kind of really going through difficult times at home. Mum and Dad were fighting, arguing. I think Dad was being very aggressive, and he got into a lot of trouble because he was quite destructive. And anyway, I think Mum was getting hit, and he got a big something and threw it through the window of his house. Well, that certainly kind of alleviated what was happening between Mum and Dad. So in his fear, in his trying to help the situation or take the stop Dad from being angry towards Mum, he threw a brick through the window. So he put the emphasis on himself, and of course that was shocking for them, so it stopped them doing what they was doing. And so sometimes those out of control behaviours have a good reason behind them. I mean, this is where we adapt, so if I get angry and I do something, like put a brick through a window, or then that takes the emphasis of what's happening over here. So why people are angry, I think, is so complicated. It's so complex. It's never what it seems. Because I think he got into trouble, he got told off, but actually he was just trying to save Mum. He was just trying to help Mum. He was just trying to alleviate the situation. So, and then it worked, So why we become angry and react out of that anger can be really interesting. When you're working with a client, I love digging into that. So what was going on for you when you did this thing, or you lashed out, or you threw a brick through a window, or because that seems like aggressive behavior, but what were you trying to do? What message? It's a communication. Anger, being, lashing out is a communication of sorts, not a very healthy one, but they're trying to communicate something. And so it's a fascinating subject when you start digging into anger and all the ramifications of that, the outworking of it. Yeah. So what happens to you when you see someone expressing anger? And just take note, what happens to you? Ooh, shrink, withdraw? Do you try and appease? Do you kind of go, oh, faint? We used to, women used to faint back in the day. Well, that might look like, look over there, which is what this boy did. It's like, look over here, look, I've thrown a brick through the window. So it kind of took the emphasis off Mum and Dad. And what do? Do you withdraw? Do you appease? I call it stroking the beast, trying to calm people down. Do you try and resolve? You move towards trying to work it out. Oh, what's the problem? Do you freeze? Do you faint? Look over there. Do you people please? Do you placate? Or do you attack? So there's all different ways. I think seeing how many different ways of responding or reacting when you see someone be angry is just really interesting. Just be curious about what you do. What do you do when you see someone be angry? Do you acknowledge that they're angry, or are you so frightened that you go into reaction mode, appease, attack, withdraw? And so a lot of people will get very afraid, and when they get afraid, they get angry. It's like, when you see a spider and you're afraid of a spider, oh, I'm going to kill that spider. We tend not to like the things we're afraid of, do we? And so that's why if someone gets angry, the other person might get angry back. Not because they're angry, because they're afraid, and that's what they dip into when they're afraid. They get angry. And so it's like, and they feel like they're being shut down. I think a lot of people go, oh, if I get angry, if I have a voice, it's like, oh, if they get scared, or they get angry back. They feel like they're being shut down. So that's a kind of common one, I think. It's just interesting. So we're not just talking about anger. We're talking about when you see other people angry, what do you do? How do you respond? How do you react? Understanding the self. And this is all about this. Having the courage to look deep inside. And it does take courage, believe me. It takes a lot of courage. We don't really want to look at all that stuff. We don't really want to go there. Because we know if we do, we're going to feel uncomfortable. And we don't like feeling uncomfortable. Because we've been told it's wrong, it's bad. And don't feel any of those negative emotions. Make no excuses. No excuses. Do it anyway. If you're watching this, you're probably done like making excuses and you want to do this work. So compassionate inquiry, that is a very powerful stance to take. Be compassionate and inquire. What's happening for me? What's going on inside of me? I love that. I love teaching people to do that. What's happening for you? Instead of just reacting, what's going on? What's really going on? Is you're angry, but underneath, are you terrified? Are you petrified? You know, if you come from a volatile environment growing up, then, you know, you probably were scared to death. You know, it's terrifying. The other people and the outside reality may trigger you, but you hold the ammunition. I think that's very, isn't it? So you might get triggered from the outside, but actually, ultimately, you're the one that, you know, what do you do in response to that? Like, you react, so you're the gun that goes off. Someone else might pull the trigger, but you're the explosive bullet. Take responsibility and think about who do you want to be. I know for me, I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to be out of control. I didn't want to be lashing out. I didn't want to be unkind. I didn't want to be cruel. I didn't want to be nasty. I didn't want to be any of that. So I think values plays a big part, you know. The Enneagram, I talked about that in another video. The anger and the Enneagram really helped me. Unresolved trauma, definitely. That's what a lot of us have got. Resentment, old anger, bitterness, you know, when you get bitter and twisted because you've been holding on to all this anger and it's like, you know, blaming others and a victim mentality. So understanding the self. Do you do a lot of, it's their fault, it's their fault, it's their fault? And that's what, you know, the victim mentality does. It's like it's everyone else's fault. Never mine. I know that's not easy to do. So key elements to my own recovery from being a rageaholic. And the first one was the Enneagram. I understood how I worked. Discovering my own subconscious beliefs. And this is what we talked about in the last one, is about what are the first one, what's our subconscious belief about anger? And I think understanding that, because I thought it's wrong, it's bad, and if I'm angry, then I'm wrong, I'm bad. I didn't realise that anger is just an emotion that's actually quite a healthy emotion, and it was communicating something to me, but I wasn't listening because I'd been taught to repress, deny and avoid. Dealing with unresolved resentments. I mean, that is really the majority of what I help people do, especially if they've got trauma rage. Usually it's because they're holding on to a lot of pain and wounds from the past that are still in their psychic being. And if they're in there and they haven't been healed, and this is why I say don't change, just heal. Just heal. It's not as easy as that, just heal. Heal, because that's the hard work of therapy. Learning how to control this, self-compassion, and I hate saying it because I know it's such a controversial subject. Of all the videos I've done, the forgiveness one is one of the one that's caused the most controversy. I put self-compassion and forgiveness of self and others, and for me, Gestalt chair work is a way of doing that. You see, when you do any kind of chair work, your body doesn't know it didn't actually happen. So when you heal the body, the mind will put it in long-term memory. And so if you have unresolved issues in your heart, that's why generally you will keep thinking about these things, because they're in short-term memory because your body hasn't healed them. They did a bit of research with the fires that happened a few years ago in Australia, up near where I lived. Well, not exactly where I lived. They sent a group of psychologists up to there to actually help people process. And they had this guy, he had really good results, and they asked him what he was doing. And he said the one thing he did when he first met them was actually put his arms out and say and hug them. And as he hugged them, he said to them, "It's okay, it's over, and you're safe now." And the people that he worked with had got better quicker, and the effects of the fire weren't impacting them as much. And so they did this research around that. And I just thought that was wonderful, because your body thinks it's still going. That's what PTSD is. It's that body doesn't realise it's over and you're safe now. And the body thinks, no, it's not over. It's still happening. It's still happening. It's still happening. And this is what PTSD is. And so creating that safe space and helping your body realise it's over. Because some people, I mean, we know from the studies they've done with vets, DVA vets and things like that, it's like the body still thinks it's at war. It's still hypervigilant. It's still on edge. Still kind of carrying that fear, because the body still thinks it's going on, and that's kind of what PTSD. Your body takes snapshots, and then after it's over, it will bring back those snapshots as a way of helping you realise that you're still holding that inside your body, and your body doesn't think it's over and you're not safe. And so I just thought that was fascinating. And so that's kind of touches into that. It's over. It's over and you're safe now. Because if we don't do that healing work, it will just keep playing out in our lives. Does that make sense? I'm going to leave it there for this one, because I think I really want to kind of get into how you can actually heal. Well, once you recognise you've got anger and you allow yourself to feel the anger, how do we resolve it? How do we move on from it? How do we let go of resentment? I hate using that term. How do we work through resentment? Not let go, because I don't think we do, because we talked about that being a cognitive understanding, and it's not. It's an emotional journey of healing that we go on when we recognise we have anger and we've repressed it, and if we allow it to come up, then what do I do with it? Because a lot of people go, well, what's the point of feeling angry? And I get it. Some things you can move through quite easily, but other things you struggle, because you haven't had your day in court, you haven't had a voice, you haven't been able to be validated for what you went through. You are still holding on to that wound, pain, hurt, whatever it is. Anyway, hope that's helped you understand even more. Until the next time, I will see you again soon.